This is a Blender Python tutorial where we'll be going over a Python script that creates this animation. And if you stick around, I'll show you how you can customize the script. Hey, I'm Victor Stepanov. I'll be guiding you through this Blender Python tutorial. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a Python script that creates this animation right here. We're going to be using a HDRI for lighting. The Python script will also apply that. And let's get going. As usual, we're going to be using some helper code to get to the main parts of the script as fast as possible. You can find a link in the description under Start Code. Open that link in your favorite browser, hit Raw, select the code, and copy it. And then go back into Blender and open the scripting workspace by scrolling all the way to the right here and hitting Scripting, and then hit New, and then paste in the code that you just copied. The primary things that this script does is it clears the scene each time you run it, so we start with a blank slate. It also enables an add-on to add extra curves into Blender. We'll be using a particular curve in the script. Alongside with that, it sets up some parameters of the scene and animates the camera in a particular way, so we're not going to be spending our time looking at that. Actually, I'll show you at the very end of this video some of the details behind the parameters that are getting set, so stick around if you're interested. And let's run our script. And you can see that the script executed. It removed the default cube, it added a camera, an empty, and that's pretty much it. So the camera, as you can see, is animated. I press space to start the animation. The camera is already kind of looped. We'll take a look at that at the end, but that's basically it. Here's the main function that executes right away. Also, if you're interested, you can check out the original link, the original artwork I did a while back that we're creating today. And here is going to be the location in the script that we're going to be working in. Above this is some helper code that we're going to be using during this tutorial. We'll be taking a look at some of the functions as we go. Let's take a look at the add-on that we're enabling with the script, and you can find it under Edit, Preferences, and then Add-ons, and then search for Extra, and then this extra curve, Add Extra Curve, Extra Objects add-on. So this is getting enabled as soon as we run the script. We already ran the script and it is enabled. It's just not getting displayed here. I'll show you by just hitting Shift A and then going under curves, and you can see there are a lot more options than you see usually. We're going to be interested in the art right here. So I'm going to add that into the scene. And let's take a look at this panel right here that is available for us to edit that curve. Take a closer look. And what I don't want is I don't want it to be in edit mode when I add it. And let's set the end angle to 120. Actually, I'm going to set it to 360 for now, just to kind of show how the animation is going to look. We're going to be changing that at the very end. And I think that should be enough for us today. And in the info panel down below, we got some code for us to actually create this curve on our own in the script. So let me paste that in. Let me remove some of the parameters that we don't need. We don't need the align, location, the rotation. We're going to be controlling the rotation with some empties. We do need that simple type, which is the arc. So this is what tells the operator what curve we want. This is also, we're going to be editing this. For now, it's 360. I think I don't need this. This needs to be false, and this is set to edit mode. Okay, that looks all right. And actually, let me set it to 120 so you can see that something will change in the scene when I run the script. So I'm going to run the script, and you can see that we have the curve, the old curve deleted and the new curve added. So let's set that to 360. Now I want to create a variable to control this particular curve. So I'm going to call it curve, and I'll get the active object. So as soon as you add something into the scene, it becomes the active object, and we're just getting a reference to that. This is defined above in the helper functions. It just grabs the currently active object. Next, I want to use this variable right here and move the curve along the y-axis. So something like that. This will make more sense when we get to more curves in the scene, when we start adding more of these, and you'll see how why we need to set this. Okay, let's run the script, and you can see that we have our curve, and it was moved along the y, and that's it. Now let's start controlling the rotation of this curve by using an empty. I'm going to go up here and create an empty using one of my other helper functions, like so. I'm using the add empty function. Let's actually take a look and go at the very somewhere at the top of this script. And okay, here we go. Yeah, this is the helper function. You can also provide a name if you want, and it just adds the empty. If you add an empty by hand by holding Shift A, it will give you the same command in the info panel. Getting again the active object, setting the name, or providing some default name, and then returning that back to the caller. Okay, let's run the script, and you can see it. We added an empty that was rotated, and now I want to parent our curve to this empty. So I'm parenting the curve to this empty, and as soon as I run the script, you'll see this curve getting rotated because it's now parented to this empty. So like so. Now you can see that the curve is rotated. Now I want to set the profile object for this curve. And if I select the curve and go into the curve properties and go under geometry, make this a bit wider. And I would want to select this object right here and then create a separate curve and apply that profile. And as soon as I select this bevel object, I can go into the info panel right here and see that mode. And let's create some curve. Okay, let's take that command that creates our curve and go up here and create a separate function that will create our bevel for our curve. So I've created a new function called create bevel object. We're calling this command. I'm going to set the radius to 0.03. Oops. And we're going to just remove all of this except that edit mode and the radius. And it just returns the currently active object, which is our bevel object. And let's call this right here. And let's run this code. All right, if you zoom in close enough, you'll see that bevel object. Let's go into the curve properties again, and then select our profile curve. And if you notice that this curve is not quite smooth, we would need to, and let's set this to 32. This controls how smooth the curve is. So if it's really low, you can see that it doesn't look great, right? We want this to be 32. So I'm going to copy that and paste it down here. Also, I'll get the selection of this bevel object. Paste that there too. And I also need to get the selection of this object as a bevel. And instead of using this is the same thing as using the variable for the curve. I'm going to set that. And let's run the script. And you can kind of see that nothing really changed. Let's update the angle. And you can see that now we're applying our bevel object. And actually, instead of using this right here, we better use the one that was created by this function. See, it really matches that worked because we're always clearing the scene. There's only a single circle curve. and that's why it's working. But we really just want to use the variable right here that's defined. One more thing that we want to do here is we want to make sure that we fill the caps. So you can see that this cap right here is not filled, and if I click fill caps, that gets filled. So let's also set that right here. All right, I'm gonna unset the fill caps and then rerun the script, and you can see that now the fill caps is getting applied. Since we've already started to create some functions, let's create another function for creating the curve. I'm going to cut that and then paste it right here. And I've named that function add curve and provided the bevel object. And now we just want to use this function and create a centerpiece. And we're going to use it that way. So we're creating the bevel object, returning it here, and then passing it into the add curve. And this should work. Let me just move this right here. So I'm pressing G to move, and let's make sure that everything works, and it does. Great. Now we can add an animation to our curve. I'm going to be using one of my helper functions that creates a 360 rotation about a given axis, and I'm going to go and find this function up in the helper functions. And here is the function that I want. So animate 360 rotation. I need to provide the axis index, the last frame, the object set if it's clockwise, the rotation, the animation is clockwise or counterclockwise, is it linear, and the starting frame. Okay, and that should be good. And the core of this function, it's calling another function which is called just animate rotation, and that animate rotation just takes an extra argument, which is the angle, and with the 360 rotation we're just passing in 360. So we're literally just inserting a keyframe using the rotation, the Euler rotation property of our object. Next, we're just figuring out is it a counterclockwise or clockwise rotation by negating or just using that angle. Using the last frame, updating the value of the rotation right before we insert another keyframe. And then we are just setting the F curves, the extrapolation of the F curves to linear, so we have a nice smooth animation without a gradual start and a gradual slowdown. Let me just copy this function call right here, and I'm going to go down under here and then paste that in. So I'm going to be rotating about the Z axis, and one thing to note here is remember that we're using this empty to rotate our curve, and the Z axis for this curve is actually going this way. So remember the empty was rotated 90 degrees. So you can see that the Z for our curve is going to be this way, right? And I have a special helper class that allows me to make this more readable. I know that the Z axis index is 2, but that doesn't really, that is not super readable. And I'm just going to use my helper class to make this readable. This is, by the way, defined above in the helper section. So let's go to the next one. So this is going to be something I'm going to be passing in as an argument. I'll get to that in a minute. The object is going to be the curve. The clockwise is going to be false. I want this animation to be linear, and the start frame is going to be the very first frame. Okay, let's go to the call site of our add curve. And it's right here, and we would need to figure out what this last frame is. And the last frame is actually defined in our context, and the context is created in the scene setup function. So let's take a look at that function. I'm going to scroll up, and here is the scene setup. Here is where we define our frames per second, the number of seconds that our loop is going to be running. and we have the frame count. And at the very bottom right here, we're defining the context, and that has a frame count and a loop frame count. And the thing about the loop frame count is it's using the frame count and just adding one more frame to this. And if we animate the full frame count, we're going to have two frames that are exactly the same. So the very first frame is exactly the same to the very last frame, right? And we don't want that. We want the last frame to be slightly off. So when we stitch those animations together, we'll get a seamless animation. Let's get this from the context. I'm just going to copy this right here, and I'm going to go way back, and I'm just going to use this right here. Since this is a dictionary, I'm going to be using this syntax. Okay, so this seems that it should just work. Let's hope I didn't make any mistakes. Let's run it. Okay, it's running, and actually let's add a timeline right here so you can see how this animation is going. Hide this. I can already see the keyframes that were added, and you can see that the very last keyframe is actually one keyframe past the length of our animation. So let's take a look. All right, so this is how the basic building block of our particular animation looks like, right? We're just rotating this curve. All right. And the final touch I want to do for this particular curve before we move on with the rest of the script is add a material to this. And you can see that we don't really have any material. I'm clicking on the material preview, and no material is assigned just yet. And we're going to fix that in just a minute. I'm just going to scroll up, and in the helper function section, I'm going to take a look at this particular function. It's creating a metallic material. It's just creating a material, then using the principal BSDF node, that is the default node that gets added into the shader. And we're just setting the base color, roughness, and the metallic to some values. Let's see if I can scroll. We're passing in the color, and that's going to be one of the arguments to this function. The roughness, again, we're setting the default is 0.1, and the metallic is just set to 1 because this is the metallic material. Let's just select this and then scroll all the way down and then define our material right here. So for the color, I'm going to use another helper function that's right here. It's just getting a random color, and I'm using one of the hex color codes and then transferring them into a RGB value that Blender understands. And I'm gonna paste that right here. And for the name, I'm just gonna take the curve, right? So it doesn't really make a difference here. And I'm just going to leave the rest as, I'm just going to remove this, but keep the roughness just in case maybe we want to play around with it at the very end of this tutorial. All right, okay, so let's pass in the material into our add curve. Let's receive it right here. And after we create our curve, let's use another helper function to apply this material. And it's just apply material, and I'm just passing in the material. Let's find this helper function above. And here it is. It's very straightforward. We're getting the currently active object and accessing the data of our object, the materials list, and appending to that list our material. Very straightforward. Nothing special there. Okay, it looks like this should just work. Let's go and run the script. And you can see right away we have this metallic material applied to our object, our curve. Let's run it again, and you can see we're getting these random materials applied to the curve. All right, if you're enjoying this tutorial and learning something new, make sure to hit the like button on this video. This will help me tremendously. Next, we need to assemble the rest of the curve. So we need more curves in our scene. And to do that, we're going to be using a for loop and rotating this curve. So I'm going to go right here and define some variables to use in our for loop. I'll be rotating these curves about the y-axis, and I'm splitting 360 into 32 parts, and I'm going to be tracking the current rotation, and this current rotation will be updated by this rotation step. Let's define the for loop itself. Okay, so here is the for loop. We're going to be using this count, and we're going to be repeating this code right here. But to make our lives easier with all the animation and everything we did, I'm going to be using another empty to control the rotation about this y-axis. So I'm creating a new empty using the add empty helper function, getting a variable, and then rotating about the y-axis using the math module, converting the current rotation in degrees, right? Blender requires us to provide the rotations in radians, so this is just a conversion. And so this will be creating the empty. Now we need to parent the result of our curve. Let's make sure that we're actually returning something. So let's return this curve control. So remember that this curve control, we've parented our curve to this curve control, and now we're going to parent this empty to the rotation right here. And now we just need, so we're using again the parent function, or parenting the control to the rotation control, and we now need to just update the current rotation with our step. And let's actually, let me set it to like 16, so I won't go the full circle, so you'll see how our shape is forming. Actually, let me set it to 8. Let's run this. All right, look at that. So you can see that these empties are getting rotated about the Y, and we're getting pressing Control Space to get a better view here. And you can see that, oh, actually these are overlapping. We need to make the bevel a bit smaller. Let's do that right now. Let's go and right here and create into the create bevel object and update this to like 02. Okay, let's closer look and see how that will fix it. That should run the script. And look at that. Okay, now we have some breathing room right there. And you can see the more this curve goes about the Y, it's starting to form this nice, cool shape. And if I press space, you can see how this is already animating, right? All right. Also, it could be one of the modifications to the script and just use less curves. Okay, so that's that. Let's use the count and use the count right here. Run our script. It's a bit dark. Okay, that looks better. So now I press Control Space again. I'm going to press 0 on my numpad to get the view from the camera. I'm going to press space, and okay, this is looking like the animation that we were looking at the beginning of this tutorial. Great. The thing that we have left is to download our HDRI and apply that, so let's do that now. For my HDRIs, I usually go to Polyhaven, and I'm using the Studio Small 03. I'm going to download the 1K version of this HDRI and save it into a temp folder in my home folder. And actually, to speed things up, have this add lights right here. I've already saved my HDRI into my home folder, and let's take a look at this helper function. So it's add lights, and you can see that I've left a comment for myself where I got the HDRI that's working with this current scene. I'm using the home folder. This will work on Mac, Linux, and Windows. And I have just a temp folder that I created there and just pasted my HDRI there. I'm getting a random color, so I have a special helper function that sets up the world shader, and the setup that I'm using allows me to set the background color instead of having some kind of plane behind the scenes. And I'm able to control the HDRI light and the strength. So let's take a quick look at the apply HDRI function. So I'm going to scroll all the way up, and here it is. So here is this helper function, and the technique I learned from watching a Flip Normals tutorial. You can find the video right here if you follow that. And here we're just getting the world shader. We're just deleting all the nodes from the world shader. And then we're adding a number of these nodes. I'm not going to go into detail of what and why we're adding them. You can check out this tutorial and find out for yourself. But this is just basically the code that does that setup. And if we take a look, I'm going to hit Z and hit rendered. There is no lights in the scene. I've just enabled the function at the bottom of the script that enables lights. So it's going to call this add lights, right? And this is what is getting executed right here. All right, so as soon as I run this script, it's going to apply an HDRI to our scene. So there we go. All right, no need to set anything up for the point lights or any suns or anything like that. And that's good to go. And let's see, it's animating. All right, and we can also take a look into the shading workspace. And I'm gonna select world, and this is the setup right here. Right, this is what I learned with a Flip Normals tutorial, and that's pretty much it. And as promised, before you go, let's take a look at some of the helper functions that we're using today and how you can customize the script. The very first thing, as usual, you can play around with this count. So if I set this to like 16, we're going to get a smaller amount of curves, right? You can play around with the bevel size. So right here, so it's the create bevel object, and by tweaking the radius, you'll get a different result. So you can see that the curves are slightly thicker. Maybe you can play around with this count. You don't really need to go all the way through this 360. You can create a different material and apply maybe some emission, or maybe apply random materials on each iteration. By the way, before I forget, let me show you what happens if you use the frame count instead of the loop frame count. Remember, the loop frame count is just one frame more than the frame count. And if I hit shift and left arrow and then the right arrow, I can quickly skip between the first and last frame. And so you can see with the current setup, this is slightly off, but if you start playing it, the animation is seamless and you don't notice that a new iteration of the animation started. But if I run this, and then now we're using the frame count, so exactly the number of frames that we have in our animation. And I'm going to hit shift and then right arrow, left arrow, and you can see that nothing changes in between the first and last frame. And this is bad because when you start playing the animation, there's going to be a slight hitch at the very end, and when you stitch multiple animations together, it'll be quite obvious that there is a break. It's going to break the illusion, and it's not going to be great. So that is why you want to use that extra frame, like so. Okay, so that's out of the way, and let's take a look at some more things. Again, you can customize the curve itself. You can maybe use a different angle, right? Maybe 180. Let's check out how that looks. Actually run that. So you can see it's slightly different there. You can maybe even add a different curve type, not the arc, something else you can find in that extra curves add-on. Let's see what happens if we update this location, like for example, set it to 0. So what will happen then? And you can see that it's actually also doing something interesting. Maybe you can look at that, but I can see already that the mesh is actually overlapping. But hey, this is abstract, so maybe that's the look that you're going for. So let's put that back. And since we're using the bevel object, we don't really need to use the circle here. We could use any shape we like. Also, another way to customize the script. Let's take a look at some of the helper functions. If you do any customization with the script at all, you just really recommend you going in here and changing up these color codes for something that you like. And that should be pretty simple to do. Then again, you can create something, another material that you want, just update the principal BSDF or maybe other nodes that you're interested in. Let's see here. Of course, you can use another HDRI, right? This is pretty simple. Download a new one and see how that looks. And another thing that I want to show you is this seed right here. Each time you run the script, it generates a seed. So after I run this script, I can paste in the seed that I got. So each time you run it, this gets copied into your clipboard. So now each time if I run the script, it's going to generate the same exact scene. So if I really like the colors and the setup, you can just pin this down by copying down the seed, or maybe just creating some comments. Okay, I like this one. And actually, this is how I prepare for these tutorials about like, oh, which one I want to use. And I like this one. And then I kind of decide which one to use in the final video. Here we're defining where our project video is saved. And let's see here. Of course, if you want to use your CPU for rendering, you should set the cycles device here, or try maybe Eevee, how that looks. And the last thing I want to go over is setting up the camera. The camera has its own animation. We're setting a start location and a mid location, and then creating a loop between those 2 points. So we're passing in the camera object, we're animating the location property, and we're passing in the start and the mid location, and then setting the start frame to the very first frame, and then we're setting the loop length to the frame count. So the frame count gets passed in right here. That's pretty much it. And we're not making this animation linear, so the camera starts slowly moving in and out. And if you have any more questions about the helper functions used here, make sure to ask them in the comments. For more tutorials like this, make sure to subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.